Here's something else I'd like to have a look at if I can find where it is. There it is the latest announcement from Labor for a policy. Now, I kind of feel like the GST on fresh fruit and veggie is a bit meh, you know. I also think that National's attack back on it is pathetic, but it's not a strong enough policy to make people that excited. Although it did seem popular when the media were talking to people in the street, but I think even Labor said this would give people $5 a week. Really? I think most people probably lose $1 a week in coins somewhere in their house. So $5 doesn't feel like that big of a deal. Sorry, you're going to say?
I mean, it's popular in the way that you go, oh yeah, that's good.
It's a popular in the way that you go, oh, when I put that new jacket on, oh cool, a $5 bill. That's nice, but it's not going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe I haven't had this jacket on for such a long time.
Yeah, it's certainly not your kid needs braces and you don't need to stress about that.
I literally got that phone call today, Chewy.
It's Lisa needs braces, dental care.
The greens. Oh my God, yes, the greens have to get in now because my youngest is due dental care, and it might come as a surprise for us being on such shills on the left, getting money straight from the government, but I don't really have $6,000 just sitting around. So come on, greens, get that in there as quick as you can.
I mean, again, we know that this is an issue. They're talking about kids' dental health being abysmal in New Zealand. You've got tons of stories about dentists going, there's not enough intervention and that sort of thing. It's something that heavily affects your later life as well. Like, this is something that benefits so many people.
Yeah, did you know?
And they've costed it out.
You probably do know that there is a direct correlation between bacteria on your teeth and heart disease. Like people who have bad teeth and don't keep a hold of their teeth and get, cavities and get plaque and all that kind of stuff, the risk of heart disease is exponentially higher. There's some kind of correlation. So yeah, absolutely. For you and for us to keep our teeth healthy, we'll keep the population healthy. And this is where the right then stop the fucking conversation. We'll keep tax-paying people in employment because they won't have to retire early, will bring more money back into the country overall. So whether you look at it as a social issue and you just go, fantastic, we'll be happier, healthier people, or whether you go, you know what, it's like giving a person who can't walk prosthetic legs so they can walk and get back into the workforce. There's actually a byproduct of it, which is they become more functioning members of society to put more tax back into the coffers as well. So it's a two-way street. It's not just one way.
Just looking at the chat, Pat, this is too good to leave.
Don't you put roll in here?
No, I have found we talk about single issue voters. I have found the most single issue voter I have ever seen in the chat.
Yep.
I hope they cut GST on beetroot be a great fiscal year for chutney. The chutney voting block has presented itself.
I thought you were going to tease me and put Rose one up there that says kids braces $10,000. Look, I don't mean this against you, Ro, personally, but whoever thinks that, just go fuck yourself, please. Honestly, there'll be a what do they call it when you ask for money online? That websites go service me or something like that. I think that's what it's called. Maybe that's a different kind of website.
Kids braces heaps cheaper than that, mate. I get some wine from Mitre 10, some super glue.
Sweet, bro, right. Sweet.
Rubber bands are in there.
Sweet. Anyway, this current diversion from the topic was brought to you by the letter V. Thank you, Chewy. For vaping, this current tangent is brought to you by the letter V. So, because it started with me saying about the meh attitude around the GST, this feels a little bit more like a bit of a meh kind of conversation. What Labor is planning to do with vaping stores on some level. We'll get into it.
Tēnā koutou katoa, Labor's vowing to vaporise the vaping industry by stopping more than 6,500 retailers from selling vape products. They cap the number of total retailers to just 600. That's a dramatic cut from the current 7,130.
So basically they're cutting, what is that, 90%? Because 10% times, more than that, probably 91, 92% of the stores, that's the plan.
A vaping retailer licence would be introduced in order to sell the products, and the fine for selling vapes to under 18-year-olds would be increased to $15,000.
Currently from $10,000.
Lloyd Burr has a story.
There are hundreds of vape shops like this across the country. They're not actually shops, but retailers within existing shops with a separate name and entrance.
Shops so seemingly so hell-bent on selling addiction.
Across the road, another dairy skirting the rules with the same thing, always a step ahead of the government.
It is not possible to get ahead of those trends.
So Labor's promising to drastically cut the number of retailers to just 600. There are currently 7,130.
All of them would need to apply for a licence.
The Director General of Health would issue them, and those within 300 metres of schools in Marae would be at the back of the queue.
That's the direction we want to go with it.
It's a welcome policy for advocacy group Vape Free Kids NZ, which just last week was petitioning the government for action.
We're really pleased.
So on some level, and we don't need to debate this yet, we'll get to it at the end, you know, kids will then go straight back to cigarettes, I'm assuming, if they can't therefore get their vapes, maybe.
That they're finally listening to the health experts and educators and us as parents.
But dairy and vape shop owners are not happy.
Oh, this guy again.
Of course.
They would go out of job. There would be a huge job losses. There would be huge number of small businesses which are going to be closed.
Do you know how many job losses that will be?
Unlike
No, is the answer.
no,
Yeah, there you
but many of the vape stores that we have don't just sell vapes.
There'd also be a $15,000 fine for any retailer selling to those aged under 18, up from 10 grand.
I'd like to think it's a much stronger deterrent than what's currently in place.
Vapes have been R18 for some time, and yet retailers have continued to sell to underage people.
These corner dairies are not selling to the younger population.
It's Labor policy, not government policy, so it depends on the outcome of the election.
The horse is bolted.
In this one, we'll be putting the horse back in the stable.
We're actually broadly supportive of the direction of travel that the government's put on the table.
Looks like National will help round up the bolted vape horse too.
OK, Lloyd, so how do you expect the industry to respond?
By crying.
Yeah, well, it's
and
fair to say
pissing
that they
themselves.
won't be happy. Their lawyers probably will be happy, but the company themselves, they will not be happy. What Labor's planning to do is essentially annihilate this industry, decimate the number of retailers, and it's a pretty dramatic drop. It's a drop of 91%, so it is a huge drop in the number of vaping retailers that there's going to be. And it's almost guaranteed that there would be legal action. This is a very litigious industry. Big tobacco, big vape, they've got deep pockets. They are very litigious. Even right now, they're going through the courts against the government's most recent tranche of vaping reforms, and that's regarding the levels of the caps on nicotine in vaping products. So there's already court action that's going on, deep pockets, and they're not afraid to dip into them and pull it out and take it against the government. The minister knows this, the government knows this, and that's why they've got to make sure any changes, any legal changes that they make have to be incredibly watertight. Otherwise, this will drag on and on and on through the courts.
There you go. So before we get, there's a bunch of good, interesting comments in the chat, Chewie, but what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts?
So letting vaping get to the state that it's in now has been an utter failure of everybody in government. Like, remember when it started and it was like positioned as like, this is a great tool to get people off smoking.
5% is harmful.
And remember that downward trend of young people smoking, you know, the campaigns sort of making it less cool. Like, one thing I noticed when I went overseas through Europe and that sort of thing, New Zealanders did not smoke anywhere near the level that they did over in Europe. And that came down to years and years of consistent, like, we got to run this down. We got to increase how much it costs. We got to make it harder to sell. You know, looking at things like age gating, the whole thing, and vaping was seen as a way that could help. That was their opportunity there to go, who's going to sell the vapes? That was also their opportunity to say, should we do some research now and see if vaping is safe? What are the things that we need to worry about? And we didn't do either of those things. And the tobacco companies went, fuck, new product. We can get back to the kids again.
Yeah.
And there's no regulation and no one's looking at this. So we can crank the nicotine up to a fucking 11. And if we crack down now, there are a bunch of kids that are right on the nicotine train that are going to have to deal with this. That it should have been through pharmacies right from the get-go. It should have been by prescription. It should have been a stopping smoking measure rather than just a new market opportunity. Nobody saw that. Nobody went looking for it. Nobody closed that door before the horse kicked it in. So we're fucked up. We're fucked up real bad. And it reminds me of when, party pills, synthetic cannabis and that sort of thing. We fucked that up as well.
Yep.
Yeah. It was like, did no one ever think of the unintended consequences of this?
Yeah, but
I didn't know that. Yeah.
This is the thing that I was thinking about this and people talk about, back in the 1930s, prohibition, how it didn't work, yada, 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 yada. Our only example of that in modern time in New Zealand is BZP party pills, because BZP party pills were banned outright, and it was all the same arguments. It was like, they'll go and they'll become a legal substance, and they'll get them from the gangs, and they'll still be here. But actually it worked. There's no BZP party pills anymore. And even if there is still a black market for a very small percentage, it's worked 95%, 99% of people they don't exist anymore. So my question to the government is, if vaping is as bad as what a lot of people are saying, and there's lots of people saying in the chat as well, why not just ban it? Like, if it's about the health of the nation, why not just ban it? Let me be generous and say, maybe not just ban it, but ban it from fucking dairies and stores. And as you're saying, Chewy, put it into a medical context, because I think I started Kooky actually saying that it helped him quit the sticks.
Yeah.
So it does. Maybe if it moved out of if it moved out of the dairies and even vape stores, and look, I used to do a podcast that was sponsored by Vaporium. But if they're saying there's too many of them and it's too dangerous, then turn it into a medical device. Ban them in any other sense, and doesn't that tick the box?
Yeah. Go down. I urge anyone to go down to a bus hub after school and see how many kids are vaping. They're getting their hands on them, like fuck knows what it's doing to their lungs, because we don't really know what's in them. There's no regulation.
Yeah.
There's no checking. These things are getting imported by the fucking container load, and there's so many shops that there's nobody that's spread around to check what's coming in.
Yeah,
it's just a shit show.
Yeah, maybe I actually know someone who could probably speak to this, who was very high profile around New Zealand and Australia when the party pool scene was huge. Maybe I'll see if he can come on and have a chat with us about this tomorrow or something. Let me have a look at some of the chat that were coming in. There we go. We start from here. JK says there'll be mega vape stores. Yeah, so there'll be 600 of them, but each one of them will be 10 times the size of a dairy, making the 6,000 number up just perfectly hard. It's also interesting, 600 is such a small number. Proportionally, what does that mean? That means most small towns will have zero, one would think, and the big cities will have them all, because that's where the money is. Another message here from Simon. The Opportunities Party emailed me today about the idea for vaping. They want to make it only chemists would sell it. I like that idea. Gary says, meanwhile, the milk is at the back of the supermarket because alcohol is by the door, for fuck's sake. And Politico again says, Labor promising to legislate around the edges of issues of society since 2017. Very nice. And also, completely off track, but g'day Simon, Thomas. Just found you guys. Love what you're doing. Thanks, Thomas.
Nice.
Appreciate that.
Thanks, man. Welcome.
Thanks, man. Kia ora. Kia ora whānau.
Talking about those BZP party pills, right?
Yep.
Try and find someone that used them back in the day and ask if they have fond memories. None of them will. They were rat shit.
When you
Some
talk,
of the scariest things I ever saw were people on party pills.
Talk to emergency department doctors and that kind of stuff, especially when you mix them with alcohol. On a Saturday night, that would be full of people from kind of 17 to 23-year-olds, 23 who had all been taking them. That was the clientele of the accidents and emergency on a Friday and Saturday night because of them.
There's quite a few people in the comments that are sort of mentioning this as well. Our problem with regulating substances, and I'm just open it, tobacco, drugs, alcohol, the whole works, is it always comes almost from a legislation and crime and punishment point of view.
Yeah.
And we're seeing things overseas, like I think it was Portugal or that sort of thing, just decriminalized all drugs and just treated it as a health issue rather than a crime issue. And they seem to, from the study that I read, that seems to have a massive uptick of success. And I just wonder if that's the way to go. Too scary, obviously too much money involved in that from the tobacco companies and the alcohol companies and all of that. But
I mean, we just heard Marama talking about that they could be braver, talking about Labour. They had a majority for 3 years that they're given away, and they'll never see again. No party will see that ever again, except maybe ACT in the next election. Would that be fair? No, anyway, but they could have done. They could have done a test case with cannabis. They could have done a test case with cannabis. They could have decriminalised it, legalised it, wherever, made it medicinal, available within, so you can have a card and go and get it. However that works. But they were not brave, even though it's a popular policy again. They didn't do it. And that could have actually given us some data, Chewy, about making an illicit drug legal and how it would be impacted in society. But they haven't done it. And now under the next sort of coalitions for the next 12 years, there probably won't be a chance of that being done.
Yeah. I mean, I look back to that referendum. There's so many lost choices, right? You hit the gangs on their income. You spin up new local industries, you increase your tax take, you free up resources for policing. There's so many, and then you could just go, cool. We'll just see how we go, knowing that there's been experiences overseas, like America as an example of all places, where they go, actually, this hasn't been the fucking end of the world. Like Colorado is just like. Oh, cool, we got more money for schools now. Like
$500 million. $500 million.
And I'm not a smoker. It wouldn't change how I live my life, but you can just objectively sit there and say, well, the benefits seem pretty clear. Why did we fuck that up?